Okay, a very warm welcome to the Panda Hub Pavilion on the morning of the Friday of the first week of COP26. The focus being, of course, as we all know, on youth voice and education. And that's what we're here to celebrate today. And of course, the negotiators and world leaders at COP have been thinking about actions that can be taken right now to deal with climate change and, of course, preparations for the future. So we're going to take a similar approach in this event. It has two acts. The first half is focused very much on the role of young people in taking action and using their voices right now, in the here and now. And then in the second half, we're going to talk more about the role of schools and education in helping to prepare them for the future and helping to shape that future through the actions of schools themselves. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to our first speaker. Actually, I'll just very quickly introduce who we've got speaking today. So we have very delighted to be able to introduce Bear Grylls from World Scouting, the Global Ambassador of World Scouting, who's going to kick us off in a moment. I will just say Bear is very much in demand, as you can imagine, and he will be leaving a little bit early to go for a media interview. So if you see him leaving, that's why. And then we also have speakers from Ashton, the Department for Education, and also from Taking It Global, some of our young delegates from around the world. And I'll introduce them all in turn as we reach them. But first of all, without any further ado, I will pass over to our very special guest, Bear Grylls.
Hi guys. Hi. First of all, what a powerhouse of a panel. Yeah, I feel like I'm the rusty tip of the spear, but these are the real people you wanna know about, the real decision makers. Great to be in your company, Gracie and Kazi. Thank you for joining us. We are a small team that represent an incredible family, and I've been asked just to speak for 5 or 6 minutes on scouting and the role and the power of young people have to try and shape this environmental agenda for the better. So Youth Day today, probably obviously the greatest day at COP. Come on. I think for me though, when I started out in this whole world of expeditions and adventure and filming all this sort of stuff, I think if truth be told, I was maybe a little bit of a climate skeptic. I thought the world was actually pretty resilient. You know, I kind of wondered how much effect really humans were having on the planet. I thought she was pretty tough. 15 years later, I have changed, no doubt. You know, I've changed because when I ask those questions now, I know the answers. I've seen it over and over again. And what I know is this, is that the world is hurting. In fact, I would go further than that to say that environmentally, I believe the world is actually on her knees. I've seen it in every corner of our great planet. You know, extreme one-off weather conditions, totally unseasonal flooding, unprecedented wildfires, polluted and broken oceans, fast turning often into swamps, thousands and thousands of remote islands swamped under plastic and rubbish. In the wildest parts of the world, you know, hundreds, thousands of miles often from cities. Habitats and wildlife and wildernesses starving. And ultimately, the result of all of this is this: vulnerable communities suffer and humans lose their lives. If you were to ask me the question now, what is the single biggest challenge to all of us as citizens of planet Earth? What is the one thing that matters most and unites us the most? along with 57 million young people that form our global scouting community? I know the answer. It's protecting our only home, our planet Earth. Today, all of humanity, all of us, wherever we're from, you know, from every walk of life, we are all faced with the same stark choice. Do we insist and take action now and stop climate change? Or do we leave it for another generation? With the excuse that we've all heard often, that it's too expensive, too difficult, too challenging, too impossible. During my 12 years as Chief Scout, which have been the most enlightening, wonderful years of my life, I think if I have learned one thing, it's this, it's that Scouts tackle the impossible. Time after time, they never shy away from those tough tasks. They embrace them. But I've also learned above everything that Scouts care. They care for their future. They care for the environment. All young people do. You know, all those young people we meet every day, they care because it's their future and it's their world. We've just had 20 of the hottest years on record. You know, that Greenland ice sheet is melting. Deforestation continues often unchecked. Our oceans get stripped, they get polluted. This COP26 is really our last chance to try and stop this. And I'm not here to point the finger of blame. I really am not. You know, I think, you know, I'm as guilty as anyone. Probably worse, actually. You know, true. But I also know that a global problem needs a global solution. And the truth is, many people doing their best, doing a bit imperfectly, is just better than a tiny minority of people living perfect lives. And that's why every one of us here can play our part in this. It's why as Scouts, we want to play our part. And it's why as Scouts today, we are so proud to announce that we're going to take that lead. We are taking that lead. And it's why collectively we've made what we've called Promise to the Planet. To say enough is enough. And with this promise to the planet, we're uniting 57 million young people around the world to use their voices and their action to say, we've got to fight to protect our climate and our future. But it's something that, as you guys know, we can't do it on our own. In fact, however great we are as citizens, as department leaders, as Scouts, on our own, and I think this is the point, we can't do it. You know, I mean, you run a huge department, you run amazing charity, you charge around the world changing young people, but on our own we have no power. You know, we need our leaders, the heads of the, you know, the ministers, the prime ministers, the presidents, the governments, to lead on this. We need them to take their promise too. We need them to change their policies. We need to change the way they seek power and energy and fuel. We need to change the way they use their resources. When the White House and President Obama approached me a few years ago saying, would I take the president into some of the wild places and show him the effects of climate change close up, it was a powerful moment, you know, but I could equally have taken him. I took him to the glaciers of Alaska in the end, but I could have equally taken him to the rainforest in Brazil. I could have taken him to some of the huge taiga forests in Russia and many other forests where globally we're losing over 30 football pitches of forest every minute. I could have taken him to the deserts of Africa to show him some of the elephants fighting and dying over scarce water source. Because I know how much we have to lose. Our planet is resilient, but only to a point. And I believe that point has actually passed. Our planet is at best fragile now. At worst, I could line up 10,000 scientists who would look me in the eye and say it's broken. Period, broken. It wasn't like that 15 years ago. Sure, things are changing, but too slowly. Countries are starting to make better choices, but not enough. We are beginning to understand that a sustainable future can be an incredibly prosperous future. But the pace needs to quicken from governments, from all of us. And I look around and young people like Grecia and Kazi, they're one of millions of inspiring young people that we work with. These guys are special, but the truth is, and you know it in your lives, we meet incredible young scouts every day, unsung, doing amazing things. But you two, you're shining lights to me. You really are. Such examples, and making many difficult but positive decisions in their own lives. And as they often say, it's this thing of reducing and recycling and recovering and rethinking. And I love that mantra. For me, it's simple. That's something I can remember in our lives, you know. We can all do better. We can reduce. We can switch to locally sourced, sustainable foods that maybe haven't crossed the oceans to get to us. We can recycle our clothes and our rubbish and do the little things and be innovative about how we do it. We can recover to see where we can maybe garden or plant trees or sow seeds and help out, tidy up a local community park. And then we can rethink to look hard about where we source things from. Do we really need that to come from there? Can we think of cleverer ways of doing stuff? Do we need to travel there? How do we all interact with the world? And maybe most powerfully of all, we can together share and spread this message of this promise to the planet. Because that's really how change happens, when we work together and we help each other. And I love the fact that this whole agenda, really, the whole conference, you know, we might have world leaders here, but the truth is it's driven by young people. Youth Day really should be day one. It's driven by young people. And I'm proud of that. I love the way this mission now is bigger than governments. It transcends borders. You know, we have 150 countries of young people and scouts united in this mission. They've actually been united for about 120 years in a promise to help people. This isn't really so different. Helping, protecting, saving our home, saving each other. And I want to finish with a message of hope, because I actually do have huge hope in the future. I really do. And I've seen the power of young people working together. I know what can happen. Don't underestimate the energy and the influence and the inspiration and the power that 57 million scouts, diverse scouts from all over the world, can have. But to me, scouts will always symbolize hope, a global force for good. And the hope says we can do this. Not alone, but we can do this. Hope says we should do it. We should do the difficult things. And that's why I'm proud today at COP26, in the year 2021 of our Lord, that I stood up, you stood up, you stood up, and we did the right thing to stand on behalf of our incredible scouting family, united, determined to create a better, safer, more ecological and more sustainable world for all of our futures. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bear. Really powerful words to kick us off. And we're going to pass straight over to our scouts who are walking the walk that we've just heard about.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Grecia. I'm from Mexico. And as it was mentioned before, I represent the Scout movement here together with Kasi.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Kazi from Bangladesh. I also work with Gracia as one of the youth representatives of World Organization of the Scout movement. And there are so many things we want to share with you from our side. So I can start, right?
Sure.
So I arrived here from almost 4,000 miles away from my country. And when I get onto the plane, I was hoping that this COP will be a very special one and should be a turning point for the human race. And let's see what happens in the next these days and the next week. But I have doubt that whether it is really going to be the turning point. You all know, I don't need to detail it out to you. I was just sitting here and was checking this thing. Every climate promise must be kept. So in the first and second day, you know, in this COP, there has been made some new pledges on the forest and other things. And to be honest, there is one thing missing from the climate change scenario. That is the action, the collective action from the governments, the private sectors, and also from our sides. The level of action that should be pitched up to tackle the climate change is not actually in that position. So after seeing this, I was thinking that like this COP26 happening and there will be so much documents, so much pledges and promises will be made in these 2 weeks. But whether it is going to be implemented at the community level that is the question, because I think most of the agreements and pledges and other things are not that much implemented at the community level, and that is where the Scouts come in. And I'm going to now really focus on the things we are doing in our community. So in World Scouting, we have several programs like our tribe, there is Messenger of Peace program and other programs. So through this program, we do one thing, like we are connecting young people, young minds with the nature. So they learn things from nature, about the nature, and they grow empathy in themselves about the nature, so that when they will grow up, when they will go to their community, so they can be part of the solutions of different environmental issues they are having at their community, and also empower other people in their community to take actions. Because there is no time to waiting for others to take action. You'll have to start the action from yourself, and we'll have to empower other people to take collective actions. So this is what we are doing in the Scouting. We have a membership base of 57 million people in almost 172 countries in the world. With such huge young population as our member base, we want to do so many things, and we are on our way to empowering every youth member of our organizations. That's why at the global level, we have implemented the programs like Our Tribe. Our Tribe is a program of three to four different components, and it has been built with a vision that the things the young people will learn from these programs will not be only the theoretical one that we learn in the classroom. Anything about the nature should be outside of the classroom, because if you don't connect young people, sometimes I feel like the elder generation should also be connected to the nature education, because they have the capability more than young people to contribute to the policy making processes. So we are connecting young people to the nature through non-formal education, learning by doing things, which is also known as experiential education. So connecting them to the nature, we are empowering them to learn from the nature, and we are empowering them to take actions at their community level. Like from the global level, we are helping them with the knowledge and other things they can do. but the action should be taken at the community level, because if we don't take actions at the community level, we are not going to address the climate change, or there are also other environmental issues happening here. We are not going to be able to address those things very nicely. There are another program which is called the Messengers of Peace program, which we initiated almost 10 years ago at the global level. There are thousands of service projects which in the other organizations, they call it project. We call it service project because these are actually community service related projects. So there are thousands of service projects. There are thousands of service projects we are implementing around the world, and you might have seen the slide behind me. There have been almost 2.5 billion service hours logged into our website in last 10 years. As we are working to address different environmental issues. So I think I'm going over my time, so I will switch over to Gracia, and she will be talking about more about our campaign of Promise to the Planet. Gracia?
Thank you, Cassie. Yes, I think a really good way to connect to what you were saying, it's on what are our hopes and wishes to go back home and really do what it needs to be done. And my first one, and for me one of the most important one, it's to bring people out to nature so they can really love what we need to protect, right? And if they don't see they will never love it, and they will never understand what's going on. Because here we're in this nice room, but we really are not looking at what's happening outside, right? So that thing. So coming back to what Bert was saying, we launched the Promise to the Planet campaign, which has basically two streams. The first one is what we want to ask for the world leaders to do, which is first is to keep it like the temperature level lower than 1.5, but also to take inclusive and transparent decisions that are towards helping or bettering the social environment, but also people and nature, right? And together, people and nature, not as separate elements. And also, this campaign is focused on 4 main steps that are more into action, because at the end, if we don't do the blah, 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 then it doesn't matter, right? So the 4 streams of this campaign is recycle, the other one is recover, the other one means reduce and rethink. And as he was saying, these are very basic things, but if we manage to move them and make them all together, I think our habits and mind shapes will be completely different, and therefore we will be able to get a new vision on what really needs to be done. And we need to start now, right? Like, how many of us have been buying the coffee and using the cups and disposing things throughout the day? It's a matter of really being aware of yourself and being aware of the environment where you are at, right? So yeah. Thank you. I want to invite you all, guys. In the action zone, we are having this tree where you can hang out your promises or wishes or hopes. So if you have time, go around and just put your leaf there. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, both of you. So as you briefly heard there, we have taken the Promise to the Planet concept that Scouts came up with and have been leading over the last few months. And we thought this is already the ideal thing. Sorry, I'm standing in front of Susan. This is already the ideal kind of message, really, for COP26 to take into schools. So WWF, along with about 25 other organizations, have been focusing on schools around the world, and especially from WWF UK's perspective in the UK, to get school children, students, to consider their promise to the planet using the same principles as you heard about from the Scouts campaign, and then also, at the same time, to think about what promise they want from world leaders at COP26. And so we asked them to create leaves with their promises to the planet on one side and the promise that they want to see from world leaders on the other side. And we're really delighted that we were given a presence in the action zone here in COP26 to display a tree of these promises so that we could say to those schools, we'll be able to display right in the heart of the decision-making at COP26, those messages. But of course, we don't have to rely on those leaves today, because this is the day of Youth Voice, and we've already heard from 2 young people, and we're going to hear from a few more, I think, that are here in the room today as we transition from talking about direct youth action and voice to the role of education. So before we do that, I really like to invite some of our young people from the Taking It Global project to come up and just introduce yourselves and say what your promise to the planet and promise from world leaders would be. So I don't know who wants to go first. Yeah. All come up together and stand. We've actually got enough mics.
Thank you so much. Okay. Hi, my name is Jada Cardinal, and I am from Amiskwich, Waskahigan in Canada, which is more commonly known as Edmonton. And we are with Decarbonize, Decolonize. And my promise for the planet would be reusing my water bottle a lot more. I think that's a practical, realistic goal to set for myself, as well as I'm a person who enjoys my coffee, so I'm going to reuse my coffee container much more often than I do. And I actually have written down my want from global leaders. It comes from the Decarbonize Youth Manifesto, which I believe Ian will be speaking more on, so he's gonna tell you the situation. But as youth, we demand governments manifest their roles and responsibilities as climate leaders. They must implement serious changes, set strong mandates, and work to inspire their citizens to act. And with that, I will pass this over.
Okay, hi, my name is Nyla. I'm 14 years old and I'm living in California. So I'm British Indian, and so I think that definitely gives me kind of two sides to the discussion. And so my promise would be to listen, because right now 26.4 million people are being displaced by the climate crisis, and we're the ones causing all of this. And there's so many people out there who are ready to share their stories, but we need to listen to them, and after we listen, we need to actually act on that. So that would be my promise, and then my demand would be that I demand that our oceans be protected, that our wildlife is protected, that our forests are protected. I live in California, so I'm not sure if you've seen, the sky was red for 3 days. The fires, you don't think they hit close to home because you're living in the Western world, and suddenly it does, and it's crazy. And then oceans are my safe space, and only 2.2% of oceans are protected. Most of our planet is oceans. That's crazy. So I would say that's my demand. That's my demand for the leaders, that we can actually get some policies in there to protect our wildlife.
Hello everyone, my name is... Okay, I hope I can take off my mask. Okay, hello everyone, my name is Ian Gunga and I'm from Nairobi, Kenya. I go to St. Austin's Academy and I'm 15 years old. I'm from a lower world country, so I know what it feels like to suffer the effects of climate change. Okay. I'm passionate about climate change because it is one of the greatest disasters that the human race has to face. But it's also one of the greatest things that can unite the human race. Because despite all of our differences, all of us have to come together to fight climate change. What I promise to do regarding climate change is to use all the power that I have in my country as a youth, in my community, or as a global citizen, to spread the word about climate change. It deserves this recognition, and as I said, being from Kenya, where many people do not know about the issue, I don't want us to suffer or dig a hole for us to suffer from the effects even more adversely than we do. Now, as what Jada said about the manifesto, so our team developed a our youth team developed a manifesto. It all started from one organization. From this organization, dozens of Zoom calls, 35,000 youth from around the world, a total of 560,000 years of living, and 3.5 million hours of working to produce a youth manifesto. This manifesto contains what us, the youth, believe has to be done regarding climate change. And it's extremely diverse. As I said, it comes from 35,000 students from over 54 countries, actually. So what I feel global leaders have to do regarding climate change is to create sustainable solutions and set targets. Because if the solutions aren't sustainable, then we're not going to be able to reach them. the solutions have to be sustainable in order for us to achieve them. And there's a difference between saying stuff that makes sense and something that makes sense and that can be realized. So that's who we are. We are Decarbonize, and we are representing the youth voice, and the youth voice is the voice of the future.
Thank you so much. Absolutely fantastic. And when we've been working on the Forest of Promises campaign, I've always been very careful to avoid certain terms that can easily come out of your mouth when you work for an NGO, one of them being giving youth a voice. I think what we've seen today very clearly from all our youth delegates is that youth do not need to be given a voice. They have a voice, and it's a powerful one. It just needs to be listened to. So that's really what our job is, to try and make sure that that happens. So thank you so much. So we're now transitioning across to the role of schools and education in doing exactly that, making sure that young people are able to use their voice and are able to join forces and have their actions brought together to be more powerful. So we've got two fantastic speakers. We're going to hear, first of all, from Alex Green from Ashton about the Let's Go Zero project. And then we're absolutely delighted to have the Permanent Secretary of the DFE, Susan, here. Thank you so much for joining us, who will then speak about education in a wider context. So I'll pass straight over to Alex.
Hi there, and thank you very much for having me here today. So I'm Alex Green. I'm from Climate Solutions charity Ashton, and we run the Let's Go Zero Schools campaign, which is a campaign for all schools across the UK to sign up to say they want to be zero carbon by 2030. Schools are at the heart of our communities. And in fact, in every day today, 1 in 6 of our population go into school. We're all influenced by our schools, and we're still, even those of us who've left school, we're still influenced by the teachers that taught us and everything you learn there. And as we know, we don't just learn in our buildings, we actually learn from them. We've been given a mandate for change by the young people, and I think, you know, what Matt was saying about them not being given a voice, actually what we need to give them is an audience, and so hopefully this is one step closer to that. So you've given us this fantastic mandate to change.
Ellie?
That mandate to create a zero carbon society and to provide an education system that sets them up to thrive in that zero carbon society as well. So our campaign, Let's Go Zero, is taking on that call to action and bringing the demands of our schools and colleges straight to the forefront. So far, over 700 schools and colleges have already signed up to Let's Go Zero, and by doing that they're saying 3 things. Firstly, they want to be zero carbon by 2030. It's an aspiration, it's where they're aiming at. The second thing is that they're taking action now within their schools, whether that's through eco-clubs, whether they're doing things about their waste, their water, the way they travel to school, what they eat in their schools. They're doing what they can be doing now, really interesting and amazing actions that are going on in the schools. And thirdly, they're saying they want help to be able to do more. They want help from the government, they want help from their local authorities, they want help from other schools, but they want to do more than they're currently capable of doing. Let's Go Zero is, we're really fortunate to be backed by lots of a wide range of organisations, including IKEA and WWF, Church of England, Global Action Plan and the National Education Union, and that's just to name a few. So we're really well supported, and it's brilliant to see so many people here. And in this coalition of organisations, we're demonstrating that demand for change, and we're taking that demand and taking it to the Department for Education. And we're really excited by the action that we can already see happening. So our vision for schools is really clear. By 2030, we want all young people to receive a robust climate education and leave school ready to engage in zero carbon jobs and lifestyles. We want all our new school buildings to be zero carbon, but we also want the UK school estate to have been retrofitted and to be leading that growth in local green jobs. And also, we need the estate to be adapted and resilient to what we know is an inevitable changing climate. So here at COP26, we're meeting with the Secretary of State for Education and a few other key people, government ministers and key individuals, to share the ambitions of our Let's Go Zero schools. We're asking for action, and we're asking for action now. We need policy change and we need investment that leads to this action taking place. We know that we need to get all our schools to zero carbon and that they have a really strong leadership role to play within our communities. And we look forward to working with all of you on this journey. So our leaf, we've done a leaf for the tree as well, and we are promising to run a campaign to help to get all schools to zero carbon by 2030. Thank you. And there's a short film now, I believe.
Oh gosh, hello. Huge thank you, Alex. And so we're now going to hear from the Permanent Secretary of the Department for Education, Susan Ackland-Hood. Thank you so much for joining us. It feels like you've been given something to respond to there. Yeah, but you don't have to.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Hello everybody, it's really nice to be here. My name's Susan Ackland-Hood, I'm the Permanent Secretary in the Department for Education. For those of you who aren't used to the slightly peculiar way in which we name our civil servants in the UK, that's secretary as in the person who keeps secrets, not secretary as in I do the typing, although I can type. I am the head civil servant in the Department for Education. So I'm not a politician, but I do help design the policies of the department and run the department so that it can execute the policies of the government. And I'm going to talk about three things today. I've got a promise on my leaf, which is written in very small, very bad handwriting, because actually, as it turns out, I'm better when I do the typing. And my promise is about three things. It's about learning, it's about listening, and it's about leading. So let's start with learning. So we've heard from young people, we've heard from campaigners, and we know that we need to make sure that we're helping people in our education system to learn both about the climate crisis and to learn the skills they need in order to take action and solve some of the challenges that face the world. And that's my first commitment. The national curriculum requires that every child must learn about the climate. It already does that through science, through geography, and through citizenship. And indeed, you can learn about it across the whole of the curriculum, and there are lots of programs designed to help schools do that. But we know that not every teacher is equally confident. We know there's more we can do to help design good quality resources to support teachers and actually to work with partners who may well have resources that can help us. And that's the first commitment. But I would say it's really important that we don't just think about schools. One of the challenges for the Department for Education is to care deeply about schools but not to be the department for schools. We need to think about nurseries, we need to think about colleges, we need to think about universities, we need to think about all of the workplace learning that adults do when they retrain from one job to another. Apprenticeships. We care about all of those things too. And we need to think about that kind of learning too. We need to start to reframe people's expectations about what green skills and green jobs are. There's still quite a lot of people out there, a surprisingly large number of people out there, who when you talk about green skills are somehow still slightly thinking about knitting and yurts. Engineering is a fundamental green skill. STEM subjects and maths are critical to many of the future green industries. So we need to make sure we're thinking, by the way, I've got nothing against knitting or yurts, they're both excellent, but they're not the whole picture. So there's something about us thinking really broadly about what the fundamental green skills are for the future and how we're cultivating and supporting those, not just for young people, although the young people are really important, but for old people too, who may need to retrain and rethink the way that they are working in the world. As you said, it's about rethinking as well as reusing and recycling. So that's the first one, learning. And we as a department need to learn too. We need to make sure we are paying attention to the best new evidence, that we're listening to scientists and those who can tell us about the shape of the skills of the future. So we want to support others to learn, we want to learn ourselves. Listening. I'm not going to talk about this at great length because people have said it so eloquently. We want to be listening to voices that can tell us how we should be thinking about the future. And there I would say young people's voices are critical because, as you said so eloquently, Ian, you are the voice of the future. This is a piece of stewardship. This is something that we collectively need to do because we want the future of our children to be better than our lives and not worse. That's a fundamental human instinct, and it's one that we should tap into and think about as we try and drive change. So again, we'll listen ourselves, but we'll also help people across the system to listen, try and construct systems that help that become a better plumbed-in part of the way we work. And then the third thing is about leading. And I've heard you ask for leadership today from government, and I think it's really important that we offer it. Now, one of the tiny disadvantages of being a civil servant, and by the way, I literally have the best job in the world, and if you want to be a civil servant, come and talk to me about it, it's amazing. One of the tiny disadvantages of being a civil servant is that if you announce something at whatever o'clock it is now, 8 o'clock in the morning, that your minister thinks they're announcing at lunchtime, they get a bit peeved, even when they're an amazing Secretary of State like Nadeem Zahawi, who I work for. You will see our Secretary of State later on today launching the Department's Sustainability and Climate Change Strategy, and so I'm slightly limited in being able to tell you everything that's in it, otherwise I will mess up his announcement later. But you, I hope, will see in that strategy some of the things we're doing to try and act as a leader, to try and make sure that we are helping to develop that learning that I talked about. But also, great leaders don't create followers. They don't. Great leaders create other leaders. They grow leaders underneath them. They help them flourish. They give them space. And so the other thing you will see in our strategy is how we are helping to create more climate leaders across the education system who can pick up that mantle and grow with us, help young people to educate their parents and their grandparents, to help people take action and be leaders in their communities. And the final part of that is that I think as an organisation, my department should be a leader too. So it may only be a small part of the contribution, but we're also making sure that, for example, think about the department's buildings, about the things the department's staff can do as we try to act as a leader across the rest of the education system. So my promises today are to focus on learning, listening, and leading to try and play our part in solving the climate crisis. Before I finish, I'm just going to say very briefly a thank you to my brilliant civil servants. We've got some of them here today, Jonathan, who have worked on the climate and sustainability plan so brilliantly over the last months. I'm really proud of you. I think it's going to be a brilliant plan. And I really hope, the other thing I was going to say is we're doing a slightly unusual thing, actually. So we're launching this plan, but it's a draft because we want to work with people and improve it. So when you see it, if you don't like it, tell us, and we'll do the listening, and then feed that back round into the leading. So I really hope you can join us later on or watch what we've done on the plan. It's great to be here, and I look forward to continuing to work with people up and down the country to try and do this thing. So thank you very much indeed for having me, and have a brilliant rest of the day.
Huge thanks, Susan. And it was fantastic to hear you talk about green skills and how green skills for the future doesn't necessarily just mean, those kind of STEM subject skills that we kind of associate with what's sometimes called green jobs. And WWF is very much thinking about the same concept. And we're just in the process of starting a new work stream called Sustainable Futures, which is focused on helping schools to embed sustainability in careers guidance, which is not just in STEM and in science, but actually thinking about how any skills and any career pathway can be towards being a force for good for the planet. So you can be a green lawyer, you can be a green accountant, you can be a green doctor. It's about how you take those sustainable values into any sector and help with the transformation of society. And I really believe that with the young people who are coming through education today and have these anxieties, have these concerns about what the future might hold because of the crisis that we currently face, that has, as well as created this sense of urgency and this sense of crisis, it's also created a sense of opportunity, or it certainly should. We need to allow young people to be able to see past the crisis to a future that they can help shape, and that they will shape one way or another, and that their opportunity to do so can be maximized by their experience in education over the next few years. So really, really important work, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what's in the DFE strategy later on today. So having mentioned the future quite a lot over the last sort of half an hour of this event, I wanted to finish the sort of the formal part of the event by showing you a short video that is a showcase of some other young people who couldn't be here today in the Blue Zone at COP. But they've been taking part in a project run by WWF called Future Visions. And the concept was very close to what I just described. We wanted to get young people to think not only about the urgent need for action and the need to move away from where we've been over the last 100 years, acting unsustainably and damaging the planet, and we wanted to get them to think and to have the opportunity to express what they want from their future. And we were delighted to work with the Grange Festival in Hampshire. We worked with several organisations and lots of groups of young people and many schools across the UK and around the world. But the Grange Festival had creative professionals in dance and song work with 9 different groups of young people of all different ages to come up with their visions of the future and then express them through dance and song. So I wanted to close the event by showing you that video. And then we'll just have a few minutes at the end where I would like to invite any other delegates here today, especially young people, but not exclusively young people, who would like to share their promise to the planet that they're going to put on their leaf, or maybe already have, and then go and put onto our tree of promises in the action zone, to just stand up and just let everyone here today know what that is. So I'm just going to give you the 4 or 5 minutes of the video to think about what that might be and whether or not you want to stand up and speak, and if you would, we'll just create that space at the end in the last few minutes. So thank you very much for coming today, and I will close the event at the end, so I won't say goodbye now.
When future doesn't need to be like the past. Hear this message loud and clear. That we see every word here, from the answer over to him. As we turn and doesn't need to be like the past. Hear this message loud and clear.
Imagine the skyline covered in green, a coolest city that once had been, beaming with life like no one has seen.
On the ground below, more space for plants to grow, the water starts to flow, the air is clean, the city's green. Life has blossomed more than you could ever know. F-U-T-U-R-E, future visions. F-U-T-U-R-E, future visions. No, it's F-U-T-U-R-E, future visions. As we F-U-T-U-R-E, future visions. Now we're seeing in a new way. As we turn over a new page. Help rebuild our future by acting now.
Okay, so thank you to all of the young people of Hampshire. So that's the end of our formal programme, and as I said just before we played the video, I just wanted to create a little space at the end now. We've just got a couple of minutes left before we have to clear the room. If there's any, especially young people, but as I said, any delegates that would just like to share their promise to the planet and the promise that they're hoping to see from world leaders, either if they've already written it on their leaf, and there's plenty of leaves there for you to help yourself to at the end, to grab, and then go and hang on our tree of promises in the action zone. But would anyone like to come up and give their promise? Oh, we've got a couple of people, yes, at the back. So please, just if you could introduce yourself so we know where you're coming from, a little bit about what you do and about what you'd like world leaders to do.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Oluwaseyi Moijo, and I'm from Nigeria. And I am the co-founder of U-Recycle Initiative, and I'm also a National Geographic Young Explorer. So my promise to the planet, which I currently do almost every day of my life, is to educate youth in Africa to learn how they can take action every day to protect the planet, and also empower them with skills to create solutions, grassroots solutions to issues like pollution and climate change. I feel that education plays a very huge role in solving this problem. For instance, we can see the story of Greta Thunberg. It all started with her learning about the climate change issue in her classroom, and see how much change she has created over time. So how much more we inspire more young people across Africa to take action now and demand more change from their leaders. Also, I hope and I demand more, less words and less talk and more real climate action from our world leaders urgently. We do not have the time, and we have to take action now. And also, we need more support, concerted support from world leaders across the globe to support basically climate education, because we have to prepare the young generation to adapt and mitigate climate change, especially in places like Africa. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, fantastic. And do we have time for one more if anyone would like to give their promise to the planet? Yes, at the back. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hannah Ladd-Jones. I'm from the University of St Andrews in Scotland. I think what my promise would be is to normalise the conversation about climate change with my friends and family. Lots of them are involved in environment, anything, and I think it's really important that you keep pursuing being that person, they're doing that climate change talk again, and actually just go through it, be that person, normalize the conversation, because once everyone else is on board, you know, we are voters, we are the people who then put those other people in power, and the more people who you can educate with conversation and just make it accessible and, you know, highlight easy to do changes that everyone can do, and just think of different ways of doing those changes, then yeah, that's what my promise is, and hopefully that will carry on.
That was wonderful, thank you. Okay, so unless we've got any last ideas. Oh, we got one more. Hey.
Why not? Thank you. So Manveer Gill with the Educational Alliance for Universities and Colleges, that's EAUC, and I suppose my pledge, my promise is to work with the policymakers, the people that can make the change, because that's where it needs to happen. And we've seen today that there's going to be a strategy, not just a strategy that comes out and DFE is saying this is what's going to happen, but one where it's a draft and you're looking for feedback, you're looking for consultation. So it's up to us, all of us, young people included, to make sure that we're part of that process and make it happen in a way that we really feel comfortable with and we think is heading in the right direction. So yeah, that's it.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Okay, so that's the end of our event, but it's only the start of the Youth and Education Day here at COP26. So I'm really hoping that you'll hold that in your heart the whole day. And a huge thank you to all of our speakers, everyone that stood up and took the mic today, and all of you for coming. We catered the event and it's now over, and no one's even eaten a single pastry. So if you can grab one on the way out to fuel yourself for the day ahead, that would be amazing. And if you could write a leaf, share it on the tree, and share it on social media as well with the hashtag Forest of Promises. We'd really appreciate that. And let's just make sure that we make this a really big moment for young people and for schools. So a final round of applause for all our speakers.